Okay, I am always going to give credit where credit is due. And in a recent video, I was criticizing the fact that we have a gerontocracy in the United States, which is where the people who have the most power, wealth, influence, the folks who control our government, are all far older than the average citizen. When it's the elderly who are in power and running the government, and I don't just mean the White House, right? Our last two presidents are the two oldest people ever to hold that office in US history. It's also in Congress, and there's been a lot in the news about how there have been 8 Democrats in Congress in the last 2.5 years that have died in office, and I think all of them have been over 70. Most of them have been over 75. And I was specifically looking at Democrats and how the gerontocracy among the Democratic Party has really stifled them. They're all mystified. Like, how is it that we are not reaching younger voters? How is there this disconnect where we should be the party that appeals to younger generations? We did in the past. What are we doing now? Well, you're a party that's controlled by the elderly, and you actively suppress younger, more innovative, more progressive members of the party who do connect with the electorate. And I mentioned several leaders. We could talk about Nancy Pelosi and how she's 85 years old and she's still put her name in the hat to run for re-election in 2026. Chuck Schumer is 74, and I mentioned Bernie Sanders, who, while not a Democrat, caucuses with the Democrats. He's 83, and he has filed to run for re-election in 2030 when he'll be 88. And Bernie supporters did not like that I criticized him, especially because I was saying we need Democrats and progressives to be promoting younger, fresher, more innovative voices. We need folks to be passing the torch. There are so many folks in their late 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, waiting in the wings who have wonderful ideas. And it's so dangerous for any of us to believe that any politician is irreplaceable. They're all replaceable. It's really dangerous for those politicians themselves to think that they're replaceable. Now, gerontocracy has come about because either those folks are not able to face their own mortality, they're unable to let go of their grasp on power and the wealth that helps consolidate for them, but also because they believe this fallacy that nobody can do it as well as them, that they are absolutely irreplaceable. And that becomes a dangerous tipping point where they and their followers believe very much that they are a savior. And that's simply not true. No, please don't make any politician into a savior. They will never be one. And I made a whole separate video where I talked about that and how we can't make Bernie into a savior. We can't make a cult of personality around Bernie, much like the Trumpers do around Trump. And maybe I could talk about that more in another video. But specifically here, I was including Bernie when I was saying we really need these older electeds, especially if they in any way want to entice back younger voters. We need them to be elevating younger members of the party and then fucking stepping aside and letting those younger folks take their rightful place. And folks were saying, oh, well, Bernie's doing that with AOC. And, that frustrates me a little bit because I don't see that as a mentor-mentee situation. I see Bernie and AOC as colleagues. AOC is already the most well-known member of Congress, arguably. She has a huge social media presence and a huge following. But I do want to give Bernie more credit than I did in my original video. One of my followers pointed me to an article from The Guardian that came out a couple of weeks ago. I had not seen this, and I was really encouraged by this piece of news. The article is entitled, Bernie Sanders Partners with Run for Something to Aid New Progressive Candidates. Now, if you're not familiar with Run for Something, I've talked them up a few times. They are an organization that helps young progressives get into politics, helps people run for office who have not done it previously. If you're not a career politician, but you're like, maybe I have something that I could contribute here. Maybe I could be a public servant. Maybe I should run for office. And on any level, we're not just talking Congress. Run for Something as tools and trainings and support to help you figure out, what's the right elected office for me to run for? They help you craft campaign strategy and messaging. Their whole slogan is, you don't have to wait your turn. You can run now, and they're ready to support you. They have endorsed and supported more than 3,500 candidates since Run for Something started in 2017. And as attorney Mark Elias said, now is a really good time to think about running for office, to take that risk and to say, I'm going to defend democracy. I want to represent my community. I want to be an advocate for the people who live around me. Now is the perfect time. So Run for Something is a really good organization whose entire goal is to empower the next generation of elected officials to help get progressive candidates, young, fresh, progressive voices in office. So I was so pleased to see that this month Bernie decided to partner with them. Bernie said in a recent email to his supporters, I am writing to ask you to run for office. Yes, you. We need to elect progressives at every level in this country who are prepared to side with the working class in America and fight for an economy and government that works for all of us, not just the few. So mad props, Bernie, and I'm sorry that the thing that I was chastising you for not doing, you were doing like basically concurrently with my criticism. This is the kind of leadership that we need from our older elected officials, them starting to pull back and starting to elevate and push forward the younger voices. The old gerontocracy establishment Democrats, all they're good at doing is losing. And I know that Chuck Schumer says, well, I can out fundraise anybody. That doesn't matter if young people won't vote for you. It doesn't fucking matter how much money you pour into that election if you don't have candidates and positions and policies that appeal to a wide range of voters. If you're bemoaning your inability to connect with young voters, then don't have people running your party who are so incredibly out of touch with the ways that Gen Z are struggling. Amanda Littman, who's the president of Run for Something, said, young people aren't waiting for the change we need. They're stepping up to be that change. Our future depends on building a new generation of leaders. I really appreciated the last line from this Guardian article. Though the 83-year-old has not formally ruled out a third bid for the White House, don't do that, Bernie. His tour and new effort to recruit candidates is seen as an attempt to guide the movement he has built over decades toward a post-Sanders future. And I hope that his followers are doing that as well, that they recognize that an 83-year-old is not the future of the party. That we are a democracy with a cohort of elected representatives who work for the people. There is no one politician that is irreplaceable. There is no one politician that's going to be our savior. It's up to us, the American people, to save ourselves, which is why it's important for a chunk of us to run for office. So I didn't give Bernie enough credit for the ways that he is trying to promote younger candidates. I really think it's great that he's partnering with Run for Something. At the same time that Bernie was announcing his partnership with Run for Something to push for younger, more progressive candidates to run for office, establishment Democrats, okay, hang on, let me pull up this article so I can quote it verbatim. So earlier in May, 84-year-old Congressman Jim Clyburn, who had stepped down from his leadership position in Congress but did run for re-election and was re-elected in 2024, he told reporters that giving up his seat in the House would mean giving up his life. To which 25-year-old David Hoggan, let's get into David Hoggan in another video. I just want to quote him here, said, there have been a few members that have come out and have said, well, if I retire, my life is effectively over. And what I would say is get over yourself. This isn't about you. This is about our country and it's about your constituents. I don't care if you've been there for a decade or just one term. That seat is not yours. It is your constituents. That is who you're there to serve. And if they choose somebody else to serve, so be it. I may disagree with some things that David Hogg has said and done lately, but I do not disagree with anything in that statement. So mad props to Bernie for taking steps to elevate younger members of the party and to encourage younger folks in the United States to run for elected office. It's so important that we do not cede elected offices to Trump. We don't pretend that elections are pointless. This is a democracy. Elections are the beating heart of our nation. They are what our entire government is built on, and we are not going to give that up. It's more important than ever for young people to run for office. And I apologize for not giving Bernie more credit in my last video where I talked about him. Do I think he still needs to retire at 83 years old? Yes. Do I think all of the elderly members of the House and the Senate need to retire? Yes, because it's devastating when they die in office and their committee seats and their votes are now just, poof. I agree with David wholeheartedly. This is not about any individual's love of the position or grasp on power or sense of self-importance. The seat belongs to the constituents. This is about the American people and the fight for democracy. And if you think maybe I have the skills, maybe I have something I could contribute, maybe it's my time to run for office, I hope you check out Run for Something. And also if you do run for office and you're a progressive candidate, let me know so I can talk up your campaign.